They say experience is the best teacher. But in the fast-paced world of tech startups, experience is often seen as a burden rather than an asset. I learned this lesson the hard way at Innovate Tech Solutions, a company I helped build from a small coding project into a $100 million enterprise. My name is Michael Anderson, and after 20 years of building secure systems for companies ranging from small businesses to Fortune 500 corporations, I thought I'd seen it all. But nothing prepared me for how quickly success could turn into betrayal, especially when ambition and inexperience collide. The morning everything changed started like any other. I arrived at our sleep downtown office at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before most of the young innovators would roll in with their cold brew coffees and latest tech gadgets. The early morning hours were my most productive time, when I could review code without interruption and catch potential issues before they became problems. That particular morning, I was reviewing the architecture for our new cloud security platform, a project that had consumed the last 18 months of my life. The system was my brainchild, built on 2 decades of understanding how hackers think, how systems fail, and most importantly, how human error can compromise even the most sophisticated security measures. Early as usual, Mike. I looked up to see Marcus Davidson, our newly appointed technical director, leaning against my office doorframe. At 32, Marcus represented everything the modern tech world worshipped: young, ambitious, and absolutely convinced that newer always meant better. He joined us 8 months ago, brought in by our venture capital investors who wanted fresh perspectives in the leadership team. Just reviewing the security protocols for the cloud platform launch, I replied, turning my monitor slightly so he could see the complex diagrams I'd been analyzing. I found some potential vulnerabilities in the new authentication system. Marcus's perfectly maintained smile tightened slightly. The authentication system that my team designed. Yes, I said, pulling up the relevant code. The biometric verification process has a blind spot. Under certain conditions, it could allow. Mike? Marcus interrupted, his tone shifting to what I'd come to think of as his mentoring voice, despite the fact that I'd been coding before he was in grade school. This is exactly what we need to discuss. Your constant concerns about security vulnerabilities are slowing down our development cycle. I leaned back in my chair, already knowing where this conversation was heading. We'd had variations of it several times over the past few months. Marcus, rushing to launch with security flaws cold. Could what? He cut in. Could make us miss our window. Could let our competitors beat us to market. Because that's exactly what's happening while you obsess over theoretical vulnerabilities. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that Marcus, despite his position, was still learning. These aren't theoretical. Last week alone, 3 major tech companies faced ransomware attacks that could have been prevented with proper. Those companies were dinosaurs, Marcus scoffed. We're different. We're innovative. We're agile. Speaking of which, he straightened up, adjusting his designer glasses. The board would like to see you in the main conference room. Now, something in his tone made me pause. I'd been in tech long enough to recognize when things were about to go sideways. I saved my work, locked my computer, and followed Marcus to the conference room, noting how he seemed to be almost bouncing with barely contained energy. The conference room was already occupied. Eleanor Hayes, our CEO, sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits, our lead investors. Sarah from HR sat in a corner, a folder placed neatly in front of her. None of them met my eyes as I entered. Mike, please have a seat, Eleanor said, gesturing to the chair directly across from her. As I sat down, I noticed a document already placed at my spot. The title read Separation Agreement. I'll cut to the chase. Eleanor began, her voice carrying the practiced neutrality of someone delivering bad news they don't personally regret. Innovatech is moving in a new direction. We need to stay competitive in an increasingly aggressive market, and that means embracing new methodologies, new perspectives, new blood. Marcus added from where he stood by the window, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. I looked down at the separation agreement, then back at Eleanor. The cloud platform isn't ready. The security systems need. The security systems are fine, Marcus interrupted. More than fine. They're revolutionary. What they don't need is constant modification based on outdated threat models. Eleanor held up a hand to silence Marcus, though I noticed she didn't disagree with him. Mike, you've been valuable to Innovatech. Your experience helped us get where we are. But technology is evolving, and we need to evolve with it. We need to move faster, take bigger risks, make bigger mistakes, I suggested quietly. One of the investors, Thompson, I remembered, cleared his throat. Mr. Anderson, we're prepared to offer a generous separation package. 6 months' salary, health benefits through the end of the year, and a positive reference for future opportunities. Though at your age, Marcus added with a smirk, maybe it's time to consider retirement. Let the next generation take the reins. I looked at each face around the table. Eleanor, carefully maintaining her professional mask. The investors, already checking their phones, considering the matter settled. Sarah from HR, slightly uncomfortable but resigned. And Marcus, practically glowing with triumph. None of them knew. None of them understood what they were about to do. The platform launches in 2 days, I said, keeping my voice level. You might want to reconsider the timing of this. The platform is ready, Marcus declared. My team has run every possible test. The beta results are exceptional. We're pushing it live at the board presentation on Friday. I thought about the security protocols I'd been reviewing that morning, about the backup systems I'd quietly put in place over the years, about all the lessons experience had taught me about how systems fail and how people fail with them. I see, I said, picking up the separation agreement. And you're sure about this decision? Absolutely, Eleanor replied. It's time for Innovatech to embrace the future. I signed the document without another word. Marcus looked almost disappointed. He'd clearly been expecting an argument, maybe even hoping for one. Instead, I stood up, straightened my jacket, and headed for the door. Security will escort you to clear out your desk, Sarah said softly. Company policy. I nodded, then turned back to face the room one last time. A piece of advice, if I may. Experience isn't just about knowing what works. It's about remembering what failed and why. Good luck with the launch. Marcus snorted. Save the cryptic warnings, Mike. Your 20 years of experience means nothing in today's tech world. We'll show you how real innovation works. I smiled slightly as I left the room, already doing the mental calculations. In exactly 48 hours, during their big board presentation, they would learn exactly why experience matters. Sometimes the most valuable lessons are the ones you learn the hard way. As security watched me pack up my office, I thought about all the outdated security measures I'd implemented over the years. The redundant systems Marcus had called paranoid. The backup protocols he dismissed as unnecessary. The carefully crafted fail-safes that no one had bothered to fully understand. In 2 days, during their moment of triumph, They would discover that in technology, as in life, there's no substitute for experience, and some lessons can only be learned through failure. I walked out of Innovate Tech's glass and steel building for the last time, carrying a box of personal items and 2 decades of knowledge they thought they didn't need. Behind me, Marcus was probably already planning how to take credit for my work, how to present himself as the visionary who would lead the company into the future. But the future has a way of teaching its own lessons, and in 48 hours, Innovate Tech would learn exactly how much experience matters in the world of technology. Sometimes the best way to prove your value is to let others discover it in your absence. As I loaded my box into my car, I couldn't help but smile. The countdown had begun, and I didn't even need to do anything. The system would do exactly what it was designed to do: protect itself from inexperienced hands trying to modify what they didn't understand. The next 2 days would be very interesting indeed. The next 48 hours passed slowly. I spent them in my home office, surrounded by 20 years of certifications, awards, and memories, waiting for the inevitable. The system I'd built wasn't just code. It was a reflection of every lesson I'd learned, every failure I'd witnessed, and every attack I'd prevented over 2 decades in cybersecurity. Marcus and his team were about to learn those lessons the hard way. I didn't need to hack anything or plant any viruses. I didn't need to sabotage their launch. The innovative changes Marcus had been pushing through would do all the work for me. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own decisions. The morning of the board presentation, I received a text from Patricia, one of the senior developers who'd worked with me for years. "Mike, something's wrong with the authentication protocols. The test environments are showing unusual patterns." I didn't respond. Patricia was smart. She'd been one of the few who understood why I'd insisted on certain security measures. She figured it out soon enough. Another text came an hour later, this time from David in System Operations. "Marcus is modifying the core security protocols for the demo. Says he's streamlining them. Things are getting weird." I could picture it clearly. Marcus, confident in his innovative approach, making last-minute changes to impress the board, probably removing what he saw as unnecessary security layers, bypassing what he considered outdated protocols. Each change would trigger subtle cascading effects throughout the system, effects that wouldn't become apparent until it was too late. At precisely 2 p.m., I opened my laptop and connected to Innovate Tech's public dev blog, where they'd be streaming parts of the board presentation. Marcus's face filled the screen, standing proudly at the podium in an expensive suit. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," he began, practically glowing with confidence. "Today marks a new era in cloud security. Our revolutionary platform represents a complete departure from outdated security models." I glanced at the system monitoring dashboard I still had access to, not through any backdoor, but through the legitimate admin credentials they'd forgotten to revoke. The warning signs were already there: unusual traffic patterns, escalating system responses, security protocols activating in sequences Marcus couldn't possibly understand. "Our innovative approach," Marcus continued, "eliminates the bureaucratic layers of traditional security while providing unprecedented protection." A small alert appeared in the corner of my screen. The system had detected unauthorized modifications to core protocols. Just as I designed it to do, it was already beginning its automated response. "Allow me to demonstrate," Marcus said, turning to the large display behind him. "We'll simulate a sophisticated attack on our system." I leaned back in my chair, watching as Marcus began the demonstration. He had no idea that he himself was the sophisticated attack the system had detected. Every streamlined change he'd made, every innovative bypass he'd implemented, had been logged and analyzed by the deep security protocols I'd built into the system's core. The first sign that something was wrong came when Marcus's demo account was suddenly logged out. "A minor glitch," he said, his smile tightening slightly. "Let me just—" His second login attempt triggered the secondary security response. Across the company's network, every modified security protocol began reverting to its original state. Marcus's improvements were being systematically identified and quarantined. "This is unexpected," Marcus stammered, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Just a moment. Warning messages began popping up on the display behind him. Each one detailed the security vulnerability his changes had introduced, complete with timestamps and severity assessments. The system was doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting itself from threats, even internal ones. Elena stepped forward, her professional composure cracking. "Marcus, what's happening?" "Nothing," he snapped, but his voice had risen an octave. "Just some aggressive security protocols. I'll override them." That's when the main security system kicked in. The large screen behind Marcus shifted, displaying a comprehensive security audit. Every change he'd made over the past 2 days was listed, along with detailed analysis of the vulnerabilities each change had introduced. "As you can see," the automated system announced in its calm, clinical voice, "multiple critical security protocols have been compromised, initiating emergency protection measures." One of the board members stood up, pointing at a scrolling list of numbers. "Are those potential financial losses?" They were. I'd programmed the system to calculate the possible cost of each security breach, a feature Marcus had dismissed as fear-mongering. Now those numbers were telling a story that even the most profit-focused board member could understand. "This is impossible," Marcus protested, his composure completely gone. "These security protocols are outdated. They're unnecessary." On the contrary, the system responded, displaying a new set of data. "These protocols have prevented 4,893 attempted breaches in the past year alone. Would you like to see the attack patterns?" Patricia's face appeared in one of the side windows of the video feed. "The system is running a full security audit. Everything Marcus changed is being identified as a potential threat, because it is a threat. These protocols, they're not just security measures. They're learning algorithms." Understanding dawned on Eleanor's face. "Anderson," she whispered. "This is what he was trying to tell us." The board chairman stood up, his expression thunderous. "Turn it off. Turn all of it off right now." "We can't," Patricia replied. "The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect itself from unauthorized modifications. Every improvement Marcus made actually created vulnerabilities. The system is defending itself." "Defending itself," Marcus shouted. "It's just code. I'm the technical director. I have the authority to." "Authority isn't the same as understanding," Patricia cut in. "These security protocols, they're based on years of real-world attack data. Each layer serves a purpose. They're not outdated. They're battle-tested." The system continued its relentless audit, now displaying a simulation of how Marcus's changes would have left the platform vulnerable to various types of attacks. Each scenario played out in precise detail, showing exactly how real hackers could have exploited the streamlined security. "Mr. Davidson," the chairman said slowly, "did you understand what you were modifying?" Marcus's silence was answer enough. "The potential losses," another board member spoke up. "These numbers. If we had launched with these vulnerabilities, We'd have been liable for every breach. Eleanor finished, her face ashen. Every data leak, every exploit. The system chose that moment to display its final analysis, a comprehensive report showing how the original security architecture had evolved over years of real-world testing, learning from each attempted attack, adapting to new threats while maintaining core protections. "This isn't just code," Patricia said quietly. "This is 20 years of experience encoded into our systems, and we just fired the person who understood it best." My phone buzzed. A message from Eleanor. "We need to talk." I smiled, but didn't respond immediately. Let them sweat a little. Let them fully appreciate the difference between true innovation and reckless change. The board meeting devolved into chaos. Marcus was trying to defend his decisions, but the system kept displaying evidence of how each innovation had compromised crucial security measures. The board members were on their phones, presumably calling their lawyers. Eleanor looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Finally, I typed out a response to Eleanor. "The system is working exactly as designed. It protects itself from threats, including well-meaning but inexperienced modifications. When you're ready to discuss real innovation, you know where to find me." Over the next few hours, my phone lit up with messages. From board members, from Eleanor, from various team leads suddenly realizing how much institutional knowledge they'd lost. Even Marcus tried to reach out, his message a mixture of anger and desperate pleading. I responded to none of them. 3 days later, I sat across from Eleanor and the board chairman in a small cafe far from the Innovatech offices. The headlines were still rolling in. Tech startups launched derailed by own security system. The true cost of experience. Innovatech's $100 million lesson. "We were wrong," Eleanor said simply. "We confused innovation with recklessness." The chairman nodded. "We'd like you to come back. Full technical control, board seat, significant equity stake. And Mr. Davidson has been asked to pursue other opportunities," Eleanor finished. I took a sip of my coffee, considering their offer. "The system needs work," I said finally. Marcus's changes, while misguided, highlighted areas where we could improve. Not by removing security, but by making it more adaptable. "You have something in mind?" the chairman asked. I pulled out my laptop, opening a proposal I'd been working on. Innovation isn't about ignoring experience. It's about building on it. Here's how we can make the system better while keeping it secure. They listened intently as I outlined my plans. "Real innovation," I explained, "comes from understanding both the past and the future. From knowing why things work, not just how to change them." 6 months later, I stood in front of the board again, but this time as Chief Security Officer and board member. Our platform had launched successfully, incorporating both robust security and genuine innovation. Marcus's replacement, a talented developer who understood the value of experience, had helped me implement improvements that made the system even stronger. The lesson wasn't lost on anyone. In the fast-paced world of technology, it's easy to dismiss experience as outdated knowledge. But true innovation isn't about discarding the past. It's about understanding it deeply enough to build a better future. Sometimes the most valuable feature of any system isn't its cutting-edge technology or its innovative design. Sometimes it's the quiet wisdom built into its foundations, the lessons learned from years of experience, patiently waiting to prove their worth. As for Marcus, last I heard, he was working at a small startup under the supervision of a senior developer who insisted on teaching him the fundamentals of security before letting him touch any production code. Experience, as they say, is the best teacher. And sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones you learn by ignoring it. Every morning when I arrive at the office at 6:30 a.m., I smile at the plaque now hanging in the lobby. Innovation respects experience. It's a reminder to everyone that in technology, as in life, the best way forward isn't about choosing between innovation and experience. It's about bringing them together to build something truly revolutionary. The young developers who once rolled their eyes at my outdated concerns now seek out my advice, eager to understand the why behind the how. And when they come up with new ideas, we work together to implement them in ways that respect both innovation and security. That's the real lesson in all of this. True innovation doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means understanding it well enough to build a better future. Sometimes it takes a crisis to remind us of that truth, but once learned, it's a lesson that proves its value every single day.